Cool, I just listened to an audio book called Powerful Listening by Kwame Christian. It's a book about active listening. I'd give it a 5 out of 5 because it's information dense and it's something that you can carry out and practice straight away. So effective listening is when you can understand, connect and validate the other person that you're listening to. Validation doesn't mean that you're necessarily agreeing with their position, but it is something that you can understand. It's something you can understand why they have a certain point of view. Listening is work. It's an active skill. It's not a passive one. You'll develop it as a habit and you have to strengthen it through deliberate practice. And we want to do this because we want to uncover hidden value in the other person. Other people have different perspectives and views and information that we do not have, and we want to try and get that information because it can help us and it can help us connect well with other people. How do we know if we're improving in our listening? When we get started, you'll start making minor improvements all the time, and then you'll develop your concentration skills as you develop your active listening skills. Avoid your biases. So when you're listening, active listening, you'll be asking questions all the time. Try to avoid closed questions. Try to ask open questions, ones that are why, when, where, how, what, and who. That allows the speaker to explain their point of view a bit easier rather than you shutting them down into yes or no questions. Avoid your natural biases due to your habits and your different points of view. You're trying to get their point of view. Slow down with your conversations. This can help the other person feel comfortable in speaking, but also giving them time to think as well. Show a genuine curiosity in what they have to say and their point of view. You'll be surprised what kind of things that you'll find out if you just let people speak. Have clear expectations at the start of your conversation. It can be very annoying if you suddenly have to wrap up a conversation. So if you really don't have time and you know that at the start of a conversation, let them know that, hey, I've only got a couple of minutes, let's have a talk, and then I've got to move on to this other meeting, or so on and so forth. Introspection. Before you have the conversation, think about how you feel about the other party and about the environment they're going to go into. It'll help you settle down. Also, you can ask questions like, how did you come to this conclusion? If they're making an argument, asking a question like this can be open-ended. It can kind of give you a bit more perspective. Pay attention to body language, but also non-verbal communication. Pay attention to things like the physical environment. Where are you guys at the moment? What kind of physical appearance do they have, and what kind of things are they wearing? That can give you information as well. That gives you non-verbal communication. Body language is another thing as well, but they're not necessarily the same thing. This can tell you things there, such as their likes and dislikes, but also the comfort of the other person as well. Pay attention to clusters of information. Don't just take one cue or body language or non-verbal communication and base all of your information off of that. Look for clusters of stuff that has congruence, that kind of, if it all comes together and also adds up to what they're saying, it's probably a correct statement of view that they have. And then also pay attention to the context that you're in, of course. Faces can lie better than other body parts, especially feet. If some person's feet are pointing away from the conversation, it's probably because they want to exit, they want to go on to their next event that they want to get onto. Emotional management of yours in particularly. Try to throw away your ego. Don't play the blame game. Don't conflate your beliefs with your identity. Try to avoid putting people in defensive positions or frustrating them, because you'll start cutting off lines of communication. Active listening means authentic validation, so getting their shared values and understanding them. You don't have to agree with them, but also empathize with that person. What do you look like to the other person? What does the world look like to that other person as well? Try to understand that point of view. Visual, audio, and kinesthetic words that you can hear that they're speaking through. If someone's aggressive, try to validate what they're saying, right? So if someone's emotional when they're speaking, validate that emotion, because that makes them feel heard. That's really important. It can calm them down. And asking effective questions. We've talked about being unbiased, avoiding assumptions, and keep the questions relatively simple. If you make them too broad, it can be a bit too much for the other person to have to think through. Tell me more about is a good kind of question to go with. Avoid why questions. They can lead to defensiveness. It can sound like you're patronizing the other person. The funnel technique is asking broad questions and then getting more and more specific over time. Pay attention to things like pace, tone, volume, repetition, and non-verbal communication as well. Introverted, if they're introverted or guarded, you need to establish your relationship a little bit more. And the book ends with building a habit of listening, and in this case here you just want to focus on the long-term goal, because this is something that you have to work on for the rest of your life. A good exercise is even asking people you trust to rank your listening skills. That can expose you and make you a bit more vulnerable, but it'll show you a whole bunch of information. I highly recommend the book. 5 out of 5. I'd give it a go. That was Powerful Listening by Kwame Christian.